Undead Matt, and welcome to my macabre movie mania. Tonight, I bring you a classic film from one of the masters of horror, the geniuses of gore, one of the pretty smart guys about the pretty scary. Tonight, I bring you Re-Animator. Re-Animator is brought to us by amazing writer and director Stuart Gordon. See, Stuart was musing one day that there are so many Dracula movies, but not many Frankenstein movies or adaptations. A friend of his pointed him to the H.P. Lovecraft classic, Herbert West, The Re-Animator. Stuart was immediately impressed and wanted to turn this into a TV show. Yes, Re-Animator was initially developed to be a TV show, but then it was told to Stuart that the real audience for horror is in movies, not TV shows. So it was adapted then to a movie, and then in 1985 they were given Re-Animator.
You killed him.
No, I did not. I gave him life.
Re-Animator begins as we see medical student Herbert West kicked out of his original school when a experiment went a little wrong. Jeez, I'll kick you out for anything these days. Herbert West moves to America and enrolls in the Massachusetts University in Massachusetts and moves in with fellow classmate Dan Kane. Herbert continues his experiments with a very interesting serum.
What happened? It was dead when I found it.
You killed him.
Oh God, did he kill the cat? Why would you kill a kitty?
He was dead. Twice.
Oh, okay, he's back. Oh, and he's cuter than ever. You see, Herbert is a little bit of a dick.
I know your work, Dr. Hill, quite well. Your theory on the location of the will in the brain is interesting. Though derivative of Dr. Gruber's research in the early 70s. So derivative, in fact, that in Europe it's considered plagiarized.
And he has been bugging the faculty and the dean of the school, and as soon as they found out he was continuing his experiments, they kick him out of school and threaten to remove Dan's loan.
If any equipment from the hospital or from the laboratories of Miskatonic University were involved in any of this unauthorized activity, criminal charges may be pressed. You will, in any case, have your student loan rescinded.
My loan?
Wait, they can do that? They can take your student loan? I don't think they can. How did schools work in the 80s? Can they take my student loans now? Because that'd be really helpful. Herbert refuses to be deterred by being kicked out of school, so he sneaks into the morgue to continue his experiments. And he decides to reanimate a human life. Of course, for some reason, they decided to reanimate Lou frickin' Ferrigno for some reason. During the ruckus with this reanimated bodybuilder, the dean of the school was killed. But of course, Herbert knows when life gives you lemons, you reanimate them.
Now, he interrupted an important experiment in progress. Granted, it was an accident, but this is the freshest body that we could come across, save of killing one ourselves. And every moment that we spend talking about it costs us results. Now, will you give me a hand?
The reanimation turns the dean insane, and he's put in the care of Dr. Hill. Dr. Hill is not a big fan of Herbert and figures out what went on and what he's doing and decides to blackmail Herbert. And during this altercation, somebody loses their head.
Later.
Okay, well, that's just funny. Herbert decides to reanimate Dr. Hill, and somehow that reanimates his body as well. Okay. Dr. Hill knocks out Herbert and steals all his notes and his serum.
What happened?
So he could protect his discovery.
Yes.
Very clever.
I gotta tell Meg.
What does Meg have to do with this?
Shut up, Meg.
Oh, did I forget to mention Meg? Yes, Megan is Dan's girlfriend and the daughter of the team. Dr. Hill heads down to the morgue to continue experimenting on bodies.
It's better.
Jeez, some people do anything to get ahead at work. Thank you. And what is the deal with airline food? Dr. Hill also decides to kidnap Megan and have a very uncomfortable scene that's kinda ooky. Yeah.
I'm very disappointed in you. You steal the secret of life and death, and here you are, trysting with the bubble-headed co-ed. You're not even a second-rate scientist.
This all comes to a head at a big showdown at the morgue, where Dr. Hill has reanimated many people and starts to terrorize our heroes. Herbert decides the way to put down Dr. Hill is to overdose him on the serum. And in the ensuing activity, Megan had perished. So Dan, being the loving boyfriend, decides to inject her with the serum.
I love you.
Leaving us on an amazing cliffhanger. Re-Animator brought in $2 million on a $900,000 budget, making it a huge success and actually garnering very favorable reviews, and is known these days as a very big cult classic, getting midnight showings in many audiences, and even having a re-release party in Hollywood. I find Re-Animator to be an amazing cult classic, calling back to the 1940 films. If you removed the gore and the color, it would fit very nicely in the original Universal films. It is a classic horror movie with the 80s aesthetic of gore, which has amazing gore, some amazing practical effects that were done really well for the time and were groundbreaking. This is all also held up by some amazing performances by all the actors involved, pulling in just the amount of crazy to remind us of that 40s acting style, but not so over the top to make this a ridiculous film. I find I enjoy it even more every time I go back to it, and I find even little nods and nicks and little jokes that I might have missed, because in the end this is a horror comedy of sorts. Re-Animator was followed up in 1990 with Bride of Re-Animator, and the trilogy was completed in 2003 with Beyond Re-Animator. There have been ideas floating around for future Re-Animator movies two specific ones known as Island of Re-Animator and House of Re-Animator. But of course, neither one has come to fruition. There's even now a stage play based on the original Re-Animator. And right now there is an Italian remake in development, but has yet to see the light of day. Currently, there is no major plans to continue the Re-Animator franchise or reboot it. So right now we just have to live with this trilogy. So yes, Re-Animator is a film much worthy a revisit, as it's a great callback to the original Universal monsters, but also a great callback to that classic 80s gore aesthetic. It's a mix of old and new, although it's still old, so it's a mix of old and old. Yeah, it works. I really enjoy it, and I love all the actors in it, and it is an amazing horror movie. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm attempting to reanimate my dinner from last night. Oh, come on. I have to set the clock. I just want to set it for a minute. Why?
Thank you for joining me on another episode of Macabre Movie Mania. What'd you think of Re-Animator? Is it a classic cult movie or is it B-movie schlock? Let me know in those comments below. Give this video a big thumbs up and share it with anyone possible. That would be very helpful. And remember, the subjects of my Macabre Movie Manias are voted on my Twitter page, so make sure you follow me at wizard_Matt to get your voice heard. Thank you again for joining me.